Hello and welcome back, everyone, to day 2 of our final week here at the LJL Summer Split. Once again, I am your host, Dr. No, your host, analyst, commentator, everything you need for your English LJL content action. Up for you guys today, we have Sengoku Gaming versus V3 Esports, and what a match we have ahead of us. But before we look too far into the future, I do want to talk about the matches that we have seen thus far, and I kind of want to go over them as we kind of saw a little bit of a flop coming out from CGA as well as DFM, who seems to have absorbed their power in the in-between weeks and really came out swinging. DFM with a 2-0 record yesterday. DFM taking down Rascal Jester, which was an expected win at the very least, but then also following it up with a win over CGA in fairly convincing fashion as well, so that's a great sign for DFM moving forward as they move up in the standings, currently ahead of Burning Core, who will have their own opportunity to hold on to their spot or possibly pass DFM back up if they get the opportunity, as well as Hawks Gaming, currently sitting alone at the bottom of our secured playoff spots, also has the opportunity to try and catch up with DFM. We'll see how both of those teams fare. That being said, though, one of the other notable matches was yesterday CGA versus Sengoku Gaming, who Sengoku also had a fairly convincing performance into CGA. Very team fight heavy, and the reason I kind of want to focus on that matchup is coming forward into this game for V3 Esports. I'm really curious to see what Sengoku is looking to try and pull out. Sengoku as a team were very... Sengoku, the last time they faced off, were sort of in a mode of trying a couple new things. They weren't quite as all in. I believe it was Blank who pulled out the Kane that matchup, and this was right around the time that Kane was really starting to run rampant in solo queue, and a couple different regions tried him out. Most notably, I believe it was just a day or two before that NA and LCK both tried a Kane pickup, and it had about the same exact amount of success across all three regions, LJL included, where Kane was showing up and just kind of getting rolled over. And it's not unlike Sengoku to be a team that likes to experiment a little bit when it comes to some of their picks, as far as we tried a Victor pickup in the last week, we've tried Kane in the past, and I appreciate that Sengoku is sort of willing to experiment. They're also one of the first few teams to kind of give emphasis towards Jhin, and they're continuing to experiment with that now that it's sort of finding its place in the meta. But I'm curious to see if we'll see that same level of experimentation now, knowing that there's an opportunity to pass CGA up in the seeds. One win would tie them up with them, and if they're able to find, so they're already tied, but if they can find a win here over V3 Esports, they won't be too far behind, and being 10-4 would be a great way to try and close out the split. So opportunity on the table for them. While V3 Esports are kind of the team that has the luxury of being able to try things out, and we've been a little bit critical of V3 in the past for kind of having a little bit of a set style. They don't exactly branch out too often. Their mid-jungle duo is insanely strong, and they rely on it fairly heavily. But I do still think that V3's dominant performance speaks volumes to how capable they are as a team. I feel like a lot of the members of V3 Esports have, across this entire split, proven themselves to be worthy contenders. Even Ace, in his most recent game, he was able to pull out a win on Zoe, which was a fairly convincing performance as well, with Ace pulling out the Zoe. I believe he got the first 2 kills of the match, or at least he started the game off with a double kill very early on and was able to move that into a lead. But definitely, I feel Ace is one of the members you look at on V3's lineup that as not always suited into a carry role, but sets up for it very well. And for Boogie specifically, I'm really hoping we'll see him play possibly a little bit more supportive picks if they are going to try to experiment. Possibly see Boogie rely on something a little bit more supportive, giving his lanes that kind of priority. I do think also Reyna has established himself as another just all-rounder carry, well, setup for carry, I guess is really the word for it, where Ace and Reyna both are just insanely good at things like Galio, into this with sets, Thresh, things of that nature. We've seen them make plays time and time again. So I'm a little bit excited to see what V3 have in store for us, as there's no longer a threat for their first place seed. The question I think definitely will come up in this matchup is, if V3 want to experiment, is this really the game you want to be trying it? Especially knowing that you're going to very likely be playing a best of 3, best of 5 against this against Sengoku later on down the split. Do you want to be experimenting against them so that they can watch their own VOD review and try to find an answer? Or do you want to hold off on that for your game against Burning Core, who you still have a chance to be playing, but a slightly lesser chance, given everyone's positions on the standings so far? Either way, we don't have a whole lot of games left for the rest of this summer split, so the time for learning is over. This is cresting out, and we're entering the final act of our summer split before we gear up for Worlds. And the question present on everyone's mind right now is, what team are we going to be sending to Worlds this year? As it seems, V3 have been showing up with a pretty dominant showing so far this split. And the question will be, are we going to be able to push that all the way to the end? Now, I do think another interesting point about this matchup and in watching their last game is that even with the Kayn mid that did not have the best performance overall, it was still a fairly close showing. And even in their game against CGA, I felt like a lot of what we saw coming out from Sengoku was very punish-heavy oriented play. A lot of their mistakes. They did make a couple early mistakes on the side of Sengoku, which isn't unlike them, but they do have a fairly dominant stat record going for them about how they play out the early parts of a lot of these games. But against CGA, the later ends of things really kind of turned into CGA just kind of opting into these awkward fights or going for objectives that they really didn't have a business going for. And while I do like to kind of praise teams for having that kind of that always hunting, always hungry mentality when you're looking for plays and looking for a way back into this game, it definitely felt like towards the later end that CGA were just kind of opting into any fight, even at a 9k gold disadvantage. They were opting into fights that were clearly going to lose. So when you talk about things like that, I like to look, what did Sengoku do to get there? And I feel like a bit of objective control and better posturing around objectives, the way they conduct themselves near objective fights, was ultimately very on point. But I'm curious to see Sengoku trying to close out the game, especially if we have a less than impactful soul. As one of the things that I've kind of criticized Sengoku of in the past, at least definitely in the spring split this was more relevant, was Sengoku definitely likes to take things at their own pace. They don't exactly rush the end. They're used to playing very passively. They will happily wait for Soul, wait for the next Baron, and just try and stack up those objectives. They always want to have something. before they push in. And while it is always good to be kind of scouring the map like that and not leaving anything up to chance, the one thing I do kind of worry about when you're watching that kind of a playstyle is against a team like V3 Esports, who has such a strong team fight and has proven themselves to be such, like, overall just a very dominant team. Are you able to afford that kind of lackadaisy nature without the enemy team kind of giving in to you and making those mistakes that you're able to punish? I definitely think this is one of those games that can either get very explosive very early on, or we could see some deadly first blows, and neither of these teams have been known to throw leads, so we'll see how things go on both sides. And as with all things, the game will sort of start off with drafts, and although Sengoku, like we mentioned, is prone to a couple drafting mistakes when they're experimenting, they have a prize set in front of them, and that would be that second place seed. So if you want to avoid a tiebreaker with CGA, this is the game you need to win. And although you could opt into the tiebreaker match with CGA, and that wouldn't be the worst position to be in the world, especially considering you just beat them fairly handily, I'm really curious to see what they're going to be busting out here. And we'll start things right along. Sengoku going to be on the blue side here versus V3 Esports coming in on red. And while we are kind of just one more time last a week of the split, we have Opperman in the top lane, Blank in the jungle, Pyrian in the mid lane, Yutoda Mayesh in AD with Enti as his support. While V3 side of things, we do have Paz in the top lane, Boogie in the jungle, Ace in the mid lane, Archer on AD, and Reyna bringing up that support spot. And looking across the bans here, Galio thrown over to Ace, like we mentioned, one of his signature champs overall, as well as the Bard ban once again showing up, as we talked about it a little bit yesterday in the games, where Bard has kind of advanced very heavily in the meta, and there are a number of pretty decent Bards in the LJL that have been showing up, so I definitely like the Bard ban coming out from V3 Esports, especially for a support like Enti. And with Sengoku Gaming having their first pick, Ashe still available and has been hyper-prioritized. And with no Aphelios to answer, Zoe as well, going to be one of those champions that has a lot of priority given over to her. And I do like that pickup from Sengoku. Unfortunately, it will mean you're likely passing over the desirable AD over to V3 Esports, as well as the mid counter pick. Zoe is a champion that definitely, while she works very poke heavy or catch heavy, she's a very flexible champion, and different in a way than something like a Set or a Volibear is flexible, where they can go to different lanes. Zoe is set in her lane position, but as far as how she can posture herself for damage, works very well. There are some comps that she can't exactly get all the value that she needs to, but she works in many different comps. She can work in a catch comp, in a poke comp. She can be somewhat defensive if she has enough setup behind her. But I do like V3 Esports. They're going to be locking in the LeBlanc and the Ashe here. LeBlanc, fairly popular counter pick directly into Zoe. And an Ashe kind of offers a similar profile where can be focused on early if you want to be a bit more defensive, or can just kind of deter things like a Volibear or any other hard dive threats coming out. And they're eyeing up the Jhin once more. Yutoda Mayeshi going to be running it back on the Jhin that he played yesterday. And ADs and mids both picked up, so Sengoku has one more blind to kind of send out here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Volibear, but I would really, if Sengoku were to shy away from it, I would be hoping that we're seeing the sort of retreat from Volibear in the meta, or at least kind of moving him into the position that he is more rightfully suited, being the 4-5 pickup, as Nautilus is locked in V3, looking at Echo for Boogie. He is definitely a jungler that can carry on the champion, but Camille as well. You wouldn't have the Galio that pairs so commonly alongside a Camille, but does offer a big threat going off that hook shot engage, and would have the LeBlanc to kind of follow that up. So a little bit of dive threat coming out from the side of V3 Esports. LeBlanc and Camille both happy to go all in on the backside of your comp, and I like what V3 are opting into here. Gives you a decent amount of threat onto the Jhin and the Zoe that would much rather keep you at a little bit beyond arm's length. And the Ashe can kind of support that with having catch potential to set up for good hook shots if anyone is caught out where they shouldn't be. But you also hold off a little bit. Now, if you're Sengoku, I wouldn't be surprised if we were looking at something like either a Thresh ban, there it is. And what I was going to say is, with banning Leona, one thing that immediately stands out as being left open is Trundle in this kind of a game. And if you're looking for that kind of catch potential, I definitely think Trundle looks to offer that. As a Soraka's being hovered here, a champion we haven't seen very often, but it will be TK in the end. TK is a little bit risky into Nautilus Jhin. While the lane can be somewhat neutralized, a lot of times if you're eating up a snared target, it's not too bad, but you do also run the risk of getting snared yourself as the TK with the slow that you incur when eating someone up. So Sengoku thinking about their top lane here. Aatrox going to be picked up as the counter into Camille. And that's a little bit of an interesting one, but I'm curious to see what Sengoku are going to match up with it as the jungle position here. Karthus would not be a bad one, would also add to that kind of long-range damage you have. It sort of adds a lot of pressure onto the Aatrox, but it's not a bad look, and the Graves will be the one that ends up rounding this one out. I do like the Graves as well, given we've already drafted into the Aatrox. Ideally, the Aatrox is something else, a little bit more defensive in nature, and you can use the Karthus, but that being said, if you're going to have a Karthus, I like the Graves as you can offer Smokescreen to kind of make Camille's job a little bit harder or deter an engage. And there comes the Kha'Zix. I believe this is going to be V3's first game with Kha'Zix going over to Boogie there. As the comps are threat, and V3 have quite a bit of threat towards the backline of Sengoku, and I like V3's comp here, I really do. But while I'm looking at it, I think Sengoku has the tools available to be able to make this game work. The unfortunate thing that I look at with V3's comp is it's a little bit sinful. And if you're not able to pull this comp off early, it is going to get very difficult for you, especially if you end up falling a little bit behind. So there's a couple things that can really crack V3's comp wide open. And if Sengoku can get their hands on them, things like Mountain Soul being on the menu, if Aatrox is able to start getting a lot of value rolling early, but I think definitely this matchup will fall a lot to the junglers here. And Blank is one that I definitely think is going to need to be very careful in this kind of a matchup. The roam potential from LeBlanc and Camille. Also, Abyssal Voyage, shooting crystal arrows across the map. There's a lot of pressure that they can exhibit onto Sengoku's jungle if they're not careful. And what better position for Kha'Zix to be in other than a hunter trying to lock down Graves? But if he can fend off the swarm, he can find himself in an okay position. There is somewhat of a notion when it comes to the LJL specifically, and while you're looking at champions like LeBlanc, where in a lot of other regions, LeBlanc kind of falls off a little bit in the later ends of this game, and or later ends of games, and a lot of times is looked at as a little bit of not exactly decaying, but it gets a bit harder to just one-shot champions outright if she ends up behind. While in the LJL, a lot of the LeBlancs are very proficient at getting in, just doing a little bit of damage, harass, and then just get back out until you're so frustrated with them that they end up blowing you up. I don't think we've seen Ace's LeBlanc specifically very often, so I am a little bit curious to see how that is going to play out for this match. And once again, you can see here by the team stats that these are two very close teams, and after yesterday, there is a case to be made that Sengoku is the rightful second place team, as they did pull out a win over CGA, but it'll remain to be seen until the match is truly underway. And with V3 Esports having all of the accolades that they do, I think this game is definitely going to be an exciting one. As are you going to be able to pull off all of these impressive stat lines against a team like Sengoku, who's matching you for Rift Heralds, nearly matching you for Dragons, nearly matching you for gold per minute? I'd be lying if I didn't say this is one of the matchups that I was most excited for today, and as we're loading in onto the Rift here, I think we're in for some fireworks as both teams are getting geared up and ready to go. I am also fairly curious to see what runes we're going to be seeing coming out from Boogie on the Kha'Zix. We've seen a couple different options given over to Kha'Zix. We've seen Phase Rush being taken and Electrocute both at different points, and both have a bit of potential in their own right. It sort of works as giving him a little bit of extra move speed, but hold that thought until the match gets underway here.
LJL 2020サマースプリットウィーク7ゲーム5戦国ゲーミング vs V3 スポーツの試合スタートです。スタートからいきなりエースが
And as we're getting things started along here, taking a quick look across the runes like we were discussing just moments ago, it looks like Boogie is opting in for the Phase Rush, which you're definitely going to need into the matchup against Graves, although you would like to just burst him out before he has the opportunity. Taking Phase Rush on a melee champ, you will be able to keep up with Blank fairly easily. But also, Phase Rush sort of acts as a pseudo E-evolve on the Kha'Zix, where you don't need your jump resets if you have the extra movement speed. Then combine that with having the ultimate upgrade for Kha'Zix later on in the game, you get a decent amount of move speed to run in and out of fights, dodge out on things like Aatrox Qs, or if you can get around, if you end up eating a depth charge from Nautilus, you can run out into safety before you have to worry about being aggressed on too hard. And both junglers going to be starting on opposite ends of the map here. Blank is looking like he wants to head over to Boogie's red buff here. He has a ward on it, so he's going to see him entering the bush. And it looks like he will be opting in for the fight. Boogie's going to back away for now. So it looks like his mid laners are going to be coming over. Pyrian has a little bit of priority, but now both Blank and Boogie are kind of dancing around here. Ace is going to face check Boogie, or excuse me, face check Blank, I believe. So he should be able to get out. I don't think LeBlanc leveled up Chain, so other than losing about half of his HP, Blank's not too worried about the way that goes, and they will both take a reset for now. Blank should pick up a little bit of bonus XP from the mid lane as well, so he's not too far behind.
38%となっています。
Blank's gonna go right back over. I think he's just gonna face check Boogie again. As Boogie is pathing the long way around here, he does kind of disappear. I love this play from Boogie, as it will dodge out on a bit of the vision and hopefully make Blank second guess where Boogie has gone after clearing out those chickens.
なるほど。
But with the way that Blank is right now, he will know they didn't cross back over to his blue side. And Blank should be able to hit 3 off of these 2 camps here, and has a crab as well to be taking to hopefully push himself up to level 3. So they'll split the difference on crabs, and Boogie should be able to steal away a couple of the blue side camps from Sengoku, as a little bit of awkward trades coming out here, as Pyrian's gonna go for trade of his own onto aces. Blank is rotating around here. This will mean that Kha'Zix will need to kind of bug out, as Blank's wandering back over to his wolf camp. Yeah, Pyrian is there hunting for him, helping make sure that Boogie didn't rotate over, but that's a very low health Opperman. Once Boogie was forced out into the jungle here, he doesn't have the greatest path onto Opperman here, unless he's able to flash as well. And Opperman does not have his own flash. Paz forced that one out earlier. So Boogie's gonna catch Blank face checking him here. Here comes the damage going in. Face rush procced on both of them. Boogie's gonna jump over the wall. That's gonna force a flash from Blank, as Boogie's just gonna get found out here. Flash of his own, given over. Ace is here, flashes forward with the chain. The proc should be enough, and that's gonna be 1 down. Opperman should be short for this world as well, but here comes a sleep. That's gonna be Pyrian, not gonna be able to tank that one up for him, as Ace should go down. Boogie's gonna try to do what damage he can. Will only force the W flash out from Pyrian in the mid lane, and overall will be a 1-for-1. You do end up ahead on 1 teleport, but a kill apiece over for the mid laners here, as Anti and Yutomi actually gonna go for a bit of a trade there. And a bit wild on the action there right away. So Boogie catches Blank walking up to him and forces the flash out right away, and then almost goes down, eating a full combo from Opperman. And the wave is just not quite here yet for this dive to happen. As Pyrian comes in, will get the combo, and then at this point you just have a number of autos. I do like that Pyrian held that flash as long as he did. He could have flashed just to get the empowered auto onto Ace and get the kill a little bit earlier, but then it might have made him have to force his own flash instead of just being able to use Aces. So overall, pretty good deal if you are Pyrian, being able to pick up that kill, as it will keep both of their gold dead even in the mid lane, both having a lost chapter and a corrupting pot for themselves. And you can see here on the first jungle route, just the abstract art piece that both of these junglers have kind of drawn for themselves in the first few minutes of this one. But with first Drake up here, I don't think Blank is going to be looking for a solo anytime soon. So that's going to be a hook opportunity onto Archer. The W is going to land. He does not have heal available anymore, but after Flash is forced, he should be safe for now. It was kind of Archer walking up a little bit too far on his own to just walk into a blatant dredge line range, as Blank's gonna be found out checking their blue buff. He does have priority from his lanes in this scenario, so he's not in the worst spot to try and get out on this one. As Paz is teleporting in, Hextech ultimatum onto Yutori Maeshi. He doesn't really have anywhere to run, but not barely going to go down there, as Pyrian did find the kill onto Boogie. That was a little bit of a greedy play to be going for by Sengoku. You know that while you do have pressure on the bot lane after Archer gets chunked out that heavily, you don't have teleport advantage, and Yutori Maeshi almost loses his life for it, but Reina just gonna throw a tongue lash onto Blank there. Just gonna kind of wipe away a little bit of the saliva from the TK, but overall, this play was just an interesting one to go for by Blank, as he had no real business walking up that far, no deep vision. The pathing got all messed up in the early game, and fortunately for them, Pyrion was able to trade a kill back, or get that kill over. But that easily could have been a 1-for-1, and possibly even worse if V3 were able to more properly set that play up. I don't mind the look from Blank. It was really just the lack of vision and priority on the mid lane as well that made that a bit of a worrisome play, but all's well that ends well for Sengoku in that scenario, as Blank's going to start up the Rift Herald right away. There's a bit of priority on the top lane, as Blank should be able to clear out that wave and get down there to help out, but NT's the one who's going to find a dredge line. The W coming out from the Jin. He should have one more shot to land here. Will he be able to get it? Beautiful snipe from Yutomaesh with the curtain call. The final shot going to be the closing act on Boogie there, as he's going to be 0-2, and this is sort of what I was talking about earlier, where if Boogie's not exactly first to the punch on Kha'Zix, I'm a little bit worried about how he's going to be able to do the assassin's job towards the later end of this game. He's been the unfortunate casualty of so many of these plays for for V3, as well as Pyrion picking up a number of kills and assists. He's starting to feel pretty good about his position in this game, and once again, this is just sort of a similar scenario, but on the opposite ends of things, where Boogie's looking around here. I think he may have thought that he was out of curtain call range, but that's sort of the partially misleading thing about Jin's ultimate, is the range is just a little bit further than the indicator says, as if just a little bit of your champion model is in, it's enough to get hit. So that's going to end up working out for Sengoku there in the mid lane, as Ace is looking for a root opportunity onto Pyrion. Will force a cleanse out before Boogie's able to leap in onto him. Blank looking for an opportunity, has a bit of damage onto Ace right away. He didn't go for his Q right away. He kind of put it off to the side a little bit and wasn't able to get that damage off, but they should be able to get a number of turret plates here. Boogie is wandering around here, but I don't know if he has the damage. But speaking of damage, Opperman thinks he has the damage for this one. He's popping the World Ender onto pause here. Hextech Ultimatum is still up, so he can dodge out on Turret Echo, but he doesn't pop it. Opperman just with a solo kill under turret in the top side. Paz wanted the blind pick Camille, but Opperman may have wanted the fight in the top lane a little bit more, as he's not only finding himself with a near 30 CS lead, he finds himself a nice solo kill on the top side. While Blank is soloing this dragon, this is feeling a little bit solo queue-esque, as just across the map, a lot of these teams are just a lot of kind of misinformed plays running around here. I'm honestly surprised that Paz did not pop the Hextech Ultimatum earlier to force Opperman under turret, but possibly didn't think he was going to go down quite so fast. Well, Blank is going to be able to secure the 4th Scuttle Crab of this game, and we'll set him up nicely in time for this gank on the bottom lane, as Rain is going very low. Dredgeline might just be enough to knock him down on its own, as Yutomi actually only needs a W snipe, but here comes a curtain call. Archer's going to have to tank this one up, but how long can he really last here? With Blank on the bottom side, if he tries to stay for this, he's possibly a diveable threat. But a couple of members from V3 Esports on their way down will deter any aggression onto him. Well, right now, Boogie really needs to be working on his farm count. He's not exactly behind in terms of farm, but realistically, he needs to start stealing away these camps if he wants to have enough damage to be the assassin that he wants. You don't have Electrocute to fall back on. You're relying purely on your own damage in this game. Well, Opperman has just kind of gotten the better end of this top lane here, growing it into about a 40 CS lead. And Paz with no Tiamat means he's going to be stuck under turret for quite some time. Good sidestep from Pyrian there, as the LeBlanc Zoe dance will continue in the mid lane. But Blank looking up at the top side here. Did not get spotted on his way in, but a ping coming out from Boogie means they might know whereabouts he is. Paz has Hextech Ultimatum again. We'll see if he's able to run this back one more time. There it goes onto Opperman. Will he go down before it's over? No! The World Ender plus Triumph is going to give him enough healing that he's not too worried about that one. Opperman once again kind of flexing himself a bit in this top lane. As even with the information that Blank was incoming there, Boogie was just a little bit too late to show up. And Opperman ends up getting another kill. I think he now has about a 2-level lead. Boogie's wandering up here. We'll get information that Pyrian's passing, or excuse me, Blank's passing the blue buff over to Pyrian. But not going to be able to do too much about that there, as Archer's arrow's just going to go wide. I understand why. I mean, you told me actually didn't have... Well, hold that thought. His ace is going to be right in Pyrian's face here. That's going to be the exhaust going down onto him. Boogie going to be jumping away. The sleep not quite going to find him. And this is a bit of a wild game coming out from V3 Esports, as right now it feels like Sengoku has just been kind of not even needing to stuff V3's plays. It just does not feel like V3 has gotten anything going for them. While on almost every other end of the map, Sengoku always walks away with even or better. As it looks like Sengoku should be able to knock down first turret on this top side here. I'm surprised Opperman isn't just all-inning for that turret. He does have World Ender, so he would be able to duke it out with him realistically. But one more wave is all it's really going to take, and Opperman should just be able to grab that turret up in the top side. First turret and almost all the plates. I believe Solo going over to him. Not too long until he's going to have a death dance of his own, and Paz is going to go for a little bit of a fight here, but fighting is just slowly slipping away from his abilities. So he's now at a 3-level disadvantage. And this is a really bad position to be in for V3 Esports, where while you do still have pick potential if you're able to catch members of Sengoku out and roaming, if you catch any of their squishy members out, right now Opperman is going to be way too strong to try and all in on a side lane. Realistically, as Aatrox is now posturing himself to be a champion that would be off in a side lane, and if you're V3, you're thinking to yourself, okay, we might be able to work an Ash Arrow into something. As hold on, we might have another fight here on the top side once again. Opperman's gonna pop the World Ender. Pause, hookshot away, but the move speed should be enough. Flash gonna be forced out from the Umbral Dash on the Aatrox there. As another Rift Herald to spawn up into the mid lane. That's gonna be the second turret going down. As Boogie's wandering up here, Opperman has a decent amount of HP though, so Boogie really needs to be careful about this one. Stops his back for now, pops the ultimate, so can buy out on a bit of time. Are they going to be able to knock him down? They will, as Paz is going to teleport in onto that one, and that's a good look for them, but what they're trading for it across the rest of the map is really what's going to be a harrowing journey, as they just lost a Drake, and now they're going to lose their support on the bottom side of things. While Reina does have Flash coming up, it's not even like he would have had an opportunity to use it if he wanted it. That's just another kill over to Sengoku, as they are putting themselves at a 5k gold lead. Gonna be growing that one just a bit more, as Yutomayesh is grabbing up this turret here on the bot side, and Ace is going for a little bit of an opportunity. Not quite gonna find a route onto Yutomayeshi there, and after using both of the dashes on LeBlanc, you're missing out on a lot of your damage anyway, so Not exactly like he had a ton of kill pressure in that scenario. But this is sort of the ideal game for Sengoku, where you're ahead early on, you're able to build a lead early on, you grab the first 2 Drakes, and now that you have about a 5k gold advantage, not only is Sengoku a team that's very good at holding on to it, they have an Ocean Soul on the menu, so their style of liking to just kind of play out the game until you get to Soul, until you get Baron, and you get these game-ending objectives, is going to pay off in this one, as Ocean Soul, one of the just, like we always talk about, one of the highest value souls in pro play at the moment, so many members of Sengoku just become that much more threatening, as Graves and Aatrox, if those are your quote-unquote frontline champions, with an Ocean Soul, they're that much more of a threat, and as it stands right now, V3 are already standing to lose some of their inner turrets. Sengoku might just be willing to end it before that even happens. That's going to be Opperman eating the arrow, and no turret aggro on him, so he doesn't even need to be too worried about that one, as Ace is going to teleport in. Now he's kind of on the wrong end of this fight, as Sengoku can easily just turn their attention towards him while they look to back away here. 45 seconds on the Baron timer, so Sengoku can secure a lot of deep vision around that. But more importantly, going to deny Boogie a bit more farm, and this is a very difficult position for V3 to come back from. We have seen gold advantages like this overcome before, but with the comp that V3 has, they're in a really rough position to try and overcome this one. They can attack side lanes decently if you can set up the desirable scenarios, but the amount of deep vision that Sengoku have available to them, with 4 turrets already being down and V3 Esports having none, the amount of ground that Sengoku can cover for wards makes it very difficult for V3 to start up a play. It's a little bit too difficult for them to circumnavigate that vision, so as long as Sengoku are respecting where they do and do not have vision, it's a big ask for V3 Esports to bounce back from this one. But Boogie here is wandering into a bit of a rough spot here. They should have an opportunity onto Pyrion, as Boogie's going to go all in onto him. I don't think Pyrion has really anywhere to run on that one. Should just be getting burned down, but meanwhile, on the other end of things, Archer's just going to get found out in his own jungle. A 1-for-1 overall, but we'll see if we can get onto Reyna as well with that dredge line landed. Flash out from Reyna. No more thick skin means that's 1 dead catfish, as Graves is just shooting fish in a jungle. Now the rest of Sengoku are looking to just kind of take fights wherever they can. A 7k gold lead allows you to do just that. Smites the blue buff away as they're going to try and get out here. Should be able to get away, as Aatrox is just going to shove in a lane into the mid turret here. And V3 Esports being forced out to this scenario, but a dredge line going to be landed up there. All of this time, they're losing waves to the mid and top lane, but a good shutdown onto Blank there is going to get started things up for the Camille, as second kill over onto NT. That's a double kill for Paz in the top lane. Itonomiyashi's going to land that W there, and they might be able to find Boogie out here, but he is a very fast Kha'Zix, as a sleep's not quite going to land, forcing out the flash from Boogie. Then he should be all right to get away there. He can reconvene with the rest of his team. But an important note for that one is the amount of gold that V3 lost in going for that play. Benefit to V3 is you do get a couple shutdown bonuses that kind of nullify or at least even out the gold income that happens from that scenarios. Now V3 might be greeting out for this Drake here, but Itonomiyashi's the one who's going to be stepping a bit too close, flashing away from that one. So we'll see where the fight goes from here. Pyron's going to come in with a huge paddle star onto Archer, followed up by the Graves buckshot. Archer's going to be forced away from that fight, and with Boogie too low to even contest that Drake, they're going to need to back away from that one. And it was ultimately a Drake that V3 had no business going for, with Boogie at about half HP. If either the paddle star or the Graves ultimate landed onto him, He would not be in the same position as Archer is. That would definitely be a bug splatted across the Dragon Wall, but we'll watch how this all kind of came to fruition. Boogie kind of poking his head around, and no reaction from Sengoku mean they're okay to go for this play on the bottom side. But meanwhile, Archer kind of walked into Sengoku here. They had vision of him from that pink ward. And Reina, who was just trying to show up to help save his lonely AD carry, was not able to get enough going on there. And while V3 are kind of pushed off into these positions, waves being deleted in the top lane, Aatrox shoving one into the mid lane, means they're just losing so much gold. And I do like this look from V3 Esports, as you recognize the situation that you're in, you need to take a fight, and you need to be able to win it. And Paz comes up huge in this fight, so beautiful stuff to him for being able to rally back from this one. And that definitely helps V3 start to dig themselves out of this scenario. But they have a lot of digging left to go, and we'll see if they're going to be able to keep up that kind of overall just force fight nature of when you're this far down and you need to take panic plays like that, you need to do it confidently, and confidence seems to be the name of the game as they're going into Opperman once again. But this time it's Opperman who's might be able to knock Paz down there. No, the second W from Ace is going to be enough to knock him down, but definitely I'm sure Paz was sweating there for a moment. At that time, it was Opperman who was just not respecting the lack of vision that he had. Gets punished off in the side lane for just being a bit too far up. And this is sort of what I've talked about in the past, where this is a fine trade for Sengoku, but did you really need to lose Opperman? Crystalair's going to find his way onto Blank, but the Baron should be able to get burned down before Boogie's in contest range. But the teleport coming in, they're going to have to leave the Baron at about 2k HP. Backing away from that one, Pop's going to restart it, so hopefully keep it there if V3 want to turn on that one. A sleep and a dredge line landed onto their support. Reina's going to be going down for that one, while Ace is trying to find his way in. Opperman is on the backside here. That's going to be a huge combo over onto Archer, as Opperman should just be able to mop this one up for Sengoku. That's enough for Sengoku. Opperman comes back with a vengeance onto the AD and jungle of V3 Esports. Ace, the last remaining member, wants a miracle steal here, and realistically is not losing a whole lot for it, but kind of fading over that they have an idea of where he is, and that ward will spot him out. Not a whole lot of mana on Pyrion, so I don't know if he has enough mana to throw a Sleepy Trouble Bubble at Ace. But Ace just messed up his W over the wall. He does have a second one with his ultimate, and is just going to be dashing away there. Was forced to use it. As Sengoku's going to pick themselves up the Baron here, and we'll watch this fight kind of unfold one more time. This is sort of the position that V3 find themselves in, where Paz, once he's already onto the Drake and he's trying to make the call to come back over onto that one, he kind of backs out a little bit too early, and with the threat of hookshot gone, Sengoku don't have a lot of engage to really be worrying about. And the teleport flank from Opperman nets him so much value in that one, and Sengoku now growing that gold lead into 10k. They really only need to wait for this Ocean Soul to really put a nail in the coffin of this one. Sengoku still has an opportunity here to hopefully try and just end off of this Baron alone, but realistically the pressure that's provided for this Ocean Drake is going to be paying much more in dividends for Sengoku. Right now, Boogie's in an okay position to find a flank and hopefully get in for a surprise onto this Baron. They don't exactly know where he is, but they are expecting members of V3 Esports looming around here. While Paz is going to be just forced to wait out in that bush. It's going to be Ace who's going to be found out to start this one off. Boogie's still in an okay position, but will get found out The arrow narrowly missing will give information that he is there, and that's an exhaust down. Beautiful snipe from Yutoto Meyeshi as Pyrian's gonna find him there. That makes this Drake a lot harder to contest, as that should be Sengoku grabbing up the Ocean Soul here. That might just be the straw that broke the camel's back, as a healthy amount of patience coming out from Sengoku will net them one more kill. A beautiful catch, and this is sort of what we talked about with the strength of Jin Zoe. There's just so much long-range catch potential that Jin offers in this kind of a comp, and followed up with a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, or just having Pyrian jumping over walls with the portal jump. A fine position to find yourself in for Sengoku, as they have a almost 11k gold lead now. This should just be all she wrote for V3 Esports. Mounting a defense here would be a big ask, but Sengoku are the ones gonna try to put that to the test here. They're going to be walking forward. Opperman's the one who's going to get this started up onto Reina. He has not long for this world. Not even going to get to pop the thick skin after getting comboed on by Opperman. Ace not going to blow up Blank anytime soon. Opperman is just in the face of everyone. The Ocean Soul just does so much with the extra healing from the World Ender. V3 Esports may have just found themselves outdone and outclassed in this game. As the Nexus is open, Sengoku looking for a couple more kills to hopefully pad their stats, but for right now, you can be happy if you are Sengoku, securing your second place position and knocking this one down. Empty's gonna slip up a little bit and find himself in the fountain, narrowly missing that fourth shot on the curtain call, but the curtain calls for Sengoku to win and V3 Esports to bow out of this game. Honestly, just an impressively played game from Sengoku. Didn't overstep their boundaries, found themselves in a win condition setup that is very desirable for Sengoku, where once you have a lead, you can just kind of rest on it for a while, wait for these next few objectives. And while there was a couple small signs of life for V3 Esports, the comp that they drafted themselves into being such a sinner comp, unfortunately, there was just not a whole lot of options, and I didn't even see this on the first pass, but that Farsight actually spotted him out there. Ace gets spotted out as well, walking just a little bit too far forward. All of that being said, though, I am Dr. No. I do all of the English broadcasting for the LJL. If you guys are enjoying the stream, I appreciate a follow. I do all of the LJL's broadcasts, like I mentioned, and I will be doing all of the playoff games coming up here pretty soon, as we only have 3 more games before playoffs are started up. So don't go anywhere if you guys are looking forward to seeing the rest of this game. Or you can follow me on either here or Twitter to know when I'm going live for the broadcast of all of the playoff games. Coming up next, we have V3 Esports returning to bat against Burning Core, who have been looking solid after their past couple games. So if you're looking forward to seeing that, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back for those.
いやただ世界のブランク注目プレイヤーに挙げましたけどコントロールするんですね。仕切りましたね。LJL だとそのグレーブスジャングル何度かピックされますけど、まあここまでその